to my Monday evening Melbourne time chat. Once again, delighted to be with you. Hey, guess what? Tomorrow is the 1st of September. Did you all know that? But for us here in the Southern Hemisphere, that means the first day of spring. What better time for us to be, well, living the dream and wanting to live the dream and filling ourselves with hope. Hope for the season ahead and what follows. Because no sooner has spring arrived when, well, some members of my family, we start thinking about what follows, and that, of course, is Christmas. That's a particularly lovely time in our family for many people, not just the little people. But it's spring tomorrow. You know, outside in the street where I live, all the trees already are full of blossom. It's so pretty. Only downside is that for those of us who do suffer from a little bit of hay fever, it's not much fun going for a walk down the street with spring, with a bit of blossom about, and having to sneeze into a mask. I feel like I should put a sign on my head saying, it's hay fever, folks. But I'm sure that I'm not the only person who's going to be feeling the effects of having to sneeze into a mask and have people look at me and wonder, has she got it? Shall I step back from her? So that's what's exciting me today, is the hope for warmer weather, better numbers, we got them today, and that everybody, wherever you are, whether you're moving into spring like we are in the Southern Hemisphere, or for you folks in the Northern Hemisphere, call it autumn, call it fall. Actually, that is my favourite time of the year, really. I love autumn, as we call it. The kind of colours you get there, while subdued in some ways compared to the blossoms and the daffodils and all these lovely, I've actually filled my kitchen with daffodils, I love them. But in terms of the feeling, it's almost a nostalgic feeling I get in autumn. It's, you're winding down from the summer, and it's that time for hunkering down, and it brings its share of hopes and dreams as well. But hey, I'm not here to give you a weather forecast. I'm here to just have a chat about, well, the fact that in approximately 2 weeks' time, Stories of Hope will be released in the United Kingdom. That's pretty exciting, guys. There are people in my world, my publishing world, who sent me emails saying, guess what I've got in my hand? It's your book. And I'm delighted that it is now out from the printers and in the publisher's hands. And I look forward to my copies arriving, hopefully in the next day or two. So I too can hold a copy. And when I next talk to you, show you my copy of Stories of Hope. Now, I'm going to this evening, I know I read you quite a lengthy email that we got last week, but I'm going to take a chance to read you not quite such a lengthy emails, but 3 little short excerpts that have come to us from different people from different countries, and just the sort of thing that I do get asked by many, many of you. And I don't mind you asking. In fact, I love the fact that you reach out and ask me. I'm not saying I've got all the answers, but I do have these amazing people in my life who do have the answers and who can help me shed those answers back to you. So thank you. And please, I'm going to keep encouraging you. Keep them coming. Keep them coming, guys. I'm loving them. My publishers are loving them. And bit by bit, I'll share some more of these stories. But let me just start with the sort of a typical message or email that I might get from somebody just wanting to say something about themselves or their family, and possibly ask me for some help or ask me for direction as well. Now this one, it says, good morning from Donville, Ontario in Canada. I just finished reading Lily and Geeta's story. Thank you for writing their story to keep this alive. One of my mother's sister-in-laws was an Auschwitz survivor. My parents lived through World War II as children, with my dad's parents participating in hiding a young Jewish couple for a short time. Long but cool story, she says. I'd love to hear the rest of it. My maternal grandfather participated as well through the underground resistance and was even jailed for 9 weeks before being released. I connected to you as you lived in New Zealand, where one of my mom's brothers settled, instead of Canada with the rest of the family. Another cool story. I find that each time I read about this dark time in our world, it just adds to the pieces I already know. Thank you for adding more to my knowledge. I look forward to reading Silke's story. Thank you. Greetings from Canada. Isn't it just lovely? It didn't take long for Marjorie to send this to me, but I have read it so many times because, well, I just love to read and hear that Marjorie, through her family, are finding a connection through Lully and Silke. I'm sure that her grandparents' story, if they are still alive, would be wonderful to hear. I love stories about people who participated in the resistance in Europe. They are some of the most amazing stories that we only get snippets of because that they just touch a small period in time often. And for the people involved, you know what? So many of the ones I've heard about, like Lully, they didn't think they were anybody special. Why should I write about what I did? Because you were special. And your family need to know that by you sharing, if you want to, what it was you actually did during that time as a member of the resistance. And I can only imagine being jailed during this time or imprisoned. There was no cool story, even though for Marjorie and her family, they seem to know these and appreciate them. So thank you, Marjorie, from Dunville, I'm not sure the pronunciation, in Ontario in Canada. I have some very dear people very close to me who also live in Ontario. So hi, big shout out to Oded and Pam. You know who I'm talking about. Let me just read another one. This has come from Jennifer. And again, this one just really touched me that there are so many people in the world who just do a little thing. And she thinks it's a little thing, but it's not. It's huge because of the impact that you have on others and you don't even know it. And that, in fact, is sometimes the beauty of it. So this is from Jennifer. She says, "Hi, Heather. I am a little free library steward that resides in State College, PA. I think that's Pennsylvania. A few years ago, I donated a little free library in honor of my mother, Ana Ravella Ortez, who passed away in 2007. My mother came to this country from Cuba when she was only 13 and knew no English. She graduated from high school and then college, and also went on to earn a master's degree. She spent her entire career teaching Spanish and English as a second language. She believed that education was key to the future and always encouraged all of her students to go for their dreams. I have two sisters, which are also little free library stewards in Richmond, Virginia, and Orlando, Florida. Together we are working to make an impact in our communities and to inspire others to promote literacy, education, and spread kindness. I just finished reading The Tattooist of Auschwitz and Silke's journey, and I'm greatly inspired by these stories and your work." Look, thank you, Jennifer. Now, I know that via me, my publishers will be sending to you some copies of my book for your little free library. That's just amazing. And I come back to what I said a moment ago. You possibly have no idea how many people you and your sisters are in fact touching and helping. I hope you at some point just look around you and see if you can just see some of the people that you do. It'll make you feel so damn good about what you do. But you already do, don't you? And you don't do it to feel good. You do it because it's the right thing to do. So I'm so delighted with what Jennifer is doing, and her two sisters. I don't know, she didn't give me their names, her two sisters. I don't really know what the little free library steward is, and we're just looking into that because I want to understand it more. I know here in Australia and in many countries, people put out on their front lawns or in their street, and some streets, they erect a small little, well, what is it? Not even a shed, it's just a little, well, yeah, letterbox. And in there, people put in and take out books, and it's for anybody who walks past to help yourself if you want something to read. Or if you've got excess books and you want to put it in there, you want to just share the words, share the experience of reading stories, any story. What does it matter? So you're starting to get the feeling of what I'm talking about, what it is that you people write to me, what I get so excited about, and what drove me to want to write stories of hope. And these are stories and letters that are just simple, short, brief, but hey, they make an impact on me. Because when I read them, as I said before, I actually hear them as well, because I'm listening to them. So thank you. Now, each one we're just going to get slightly different in terms of what is being written and what is being asked. A little on the paper here. Okay. This has come from Robin. By the way, these people have agreed and approved my sharing their emails with you. Don't think that I'm blindly just reading out correspondence to me without approval. I would never do that, never. So feel safe that if you do write to me and we then contact you and ask for permission to do this, that if you say no, that will be respected, 100%. Anyway, Robin, yeah, my publishers might be a bit cross with you, particularly Benny, my manager, because from what you wrote, you've had me spending quite a bit of time on my own computer doing some research because I needed to know more about what you wrote. So let me tell you what she wrote, and then you'll see why I got hooked. I just finished listening to Silke's Journey on audiobook and really loved the novel. Thank you for writing it. Didn't Louise do a great job reading it? My grandfather, his mother and sister were sent from Poland to the Archangel's lumber labor camp in Siberia during World War II. Your book gave me a glimpse into what it would have been like and has inspired me to learn more. My grandfather really talked about his experience in the camp or his time in the war as part of Anders' army. Do you have any suggestions for resource I could use to do more research? I found a few online dedicated specifically to Polish deportation camps. And that's thank you. And that is from Robin. Now, we wrote to Robin or contacted Robin and asked her, could we read this? And now she got back to us and say, this is what I mean. She did the right thing here. And she took a little bit of time getting back to us because she, in her words, I needed to check with my mum to confirm that she'd be comfortable with my sharing my grandfather's story. She is comfortable with it being shared. Well, what she went on to say, well, let me know a few more details, and she learned that her grandfather's father was also sent to the labour camp. He died when they were en route to join Anders' army, and my grandfather said they had no choice but to dump his father's body at the side of the road. Yeah. And so I want to help Robin, and of course I will do this personally with her in terms of whatever I can suggest in terms of researching. You know, I never thought I'd like research. To me, I thought, oh, no, you sit there and you just troll through page after page in books and in libraries, and that it could be something that would take up a lot of time. Well, it kind of does, and it can be an incredible time waster. But it can also be incredibly rewarding. It is so amazing. You find something, you've got to go to something else. It leads you on. And just looking up the Gulag in Siberia, where Robin's grandfather and family were sent to, I needed to know more about that. Here's the thing, when I was writing Silke's story, I said to the researcher that I used, which was a professional researcher in Moscow, only find out information about Vorkuta. I didn't want to know about any other Gulag. I was concerned that I would get my facts mixed up if I read about well, what went on, the treatment of the prisoners, in case it differed. So I have kept my research very, very specific. But no, Robin, thanks to you, I am now starting to get all over what is known as the Archangels gulags. That was several of them in the one particular area, all part of the Archangels. And unlike Vorkuta, which was a coal mine, predominantly forestry is what was going on in and around the part of Siberia where the Archangels were. And to learn that it was considered to be, yeah, quite a large gulag, about the same time that Robin's family were there. Well, I think I had a look and they said about 32, 35,000 prisoners in this gulag at this time. But if I can compare that to Silka's gulag in Vorkuta, the stat I've got from 1951, which was when Silka was definitely there was something like 73,000 people in Vorkuta. So it's a good size, bigger than that again. I will write this and tell you, but in case you haven't found it, but you probably have, a good place to learn more about that particular gulag is a document called The Chronicles of Terror. Now, what I've seen in there, but not been able to look at in detail, are many, many testimonies of other people who were in the Archangels. And by reading their testimonies is how Robin and anyone else who's wanting to find out about these places, if you haven't got it from your family member because they didn't talk and wouldn't tell you much, there were people who did record and make testimonies about these places. And if you read their testimonies, you can just extrapolate that to your grandfather and know that that too was his experience. Now, the reason I can't give you much more information about these testimonies, other than the vast majority of them, by the way, were from Polish people. It does seem that that was an area where a large number of the prisoners were in fact Polish. Not only Jews, in fact, many of them were not Jews, the majority were not. But the problem I had when I went into this document and tried to see what these testimonies were, other than identifying the people who had written them and recorded them, I in fact didn't read what they said because, of course, I couldn't read the writing. That then becomes, well, it's not the problem, it's just the next challenge in your research. Now, you can do it the simple way and cut and paste into Google Translate, and you'll get a reasonable idea. And for the most part, that's free and can certainly give you a good feel by just doing that. A little bit time consuming. But of course, another way is to find somebody, a friend, or you might even have to employ somebody and just say, look, can you just translate 2 or 3 of these testimonies for me? And then that you can get an idea, in fact, what your grandfather's experience would have been like. Not sure how much you know, but I will write to you, Robin, and I will sort of just give you a few more tips on how to do research. But I have to admit that, once again, for me, having no languages other than English, I did have to rely on professional researchers in Europe to not only find the documents, because here's the thing, when you put in Google to research and look for something, you're writing it in English. Now, there could be heaps and heaps of material out there related to what you want to know. But if you don't write the right search words because you don't know what language it's going to be in, then you never find them. And it was really wonderful when my researchers would send me back, here's the information we've found. And they'd send me the link to where they found it. And I go, oh, okay. So if I had have known that by using those words in that language, I could have found them too. So it's not easy. And maybe you just need to find someone who can help you get the right words in the right language to do your searches. And as I say, once you find them, you'll find a keyword. So this is a little hint, just a little bit of a snippet of these stories and these emails that come to me, or some kind of messages on Facebook. I don't care where they come from. You send them. Okay, for you folks on Facebook who have been writing to me recently, I know I've got a little bit behind. And I promise I'll do better. But hey, that book, Stories of Hope, has been kind of taking up a bit of my time, as you can imagine. And I'm about to enter in an even busier period with it. Yeah, it's one thing to write a book, but then you've got to flog it, so to speak. Now, that's the part that I actually absolutely adore. And when I look at my itinerary coming up for the next month or so, and I see the places that I'm going to be sitting down in front of my laptop, in front of this camera, and zooming into radio stations, television stations, and all these amazing media outlets who have asked for interviews. Now, when it comes to live radio and television, as you can imagine, my time zone and the UK time zone is not exactly in sync, but I don't mind. And I've noticed that some of them I've got a 4 a.m. wake, 5 a.m. Oh, let's go back to 4 a.m. Oh, you can sleep in this day. It's not until 6. And I'm in for a busy time, but they're only snippets of my day. Now, I'd like to admit that if I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, well, actually, I have to get up about 3:30 because it takes more than 5 minutes for me to look in any way presentable at that hour of the morning to be. And some of these are live television, by the way. You got to look reasonable, well, as best you can. And to do that, you might think, well, then you've got a whole day ahead of you to then get on and do the writing for the next book and do what you've got to do. But nah, I can sleep anywhere, anytime, anyhow. And whenever I have had to get up at that hour, even if I'm up at 5 and I'm then talking from 5:30 till 7 a.m., I'm kind of going to go, okay, well, I'm good for another hour and a half sleep. Back to bed. I'm out and I'll catch up on it. So I don't get these really, really long days and nights because I've had to get up early. You probably didn't want to hear that. But anyway, that's going to be my next several weeks as I promote Stories of Hope. And I have to now do that, not by being there in person, but via this same method that I'm talking to you now. You know, it used to be a real thrill for me with the other two books, not only when they came out, but every other time when I was in London. And I was delighted that where my publishers were and where I often stayed in London was within walking distance of the BBC. And there could be at least each day, sometimes twice a day, Francesca or Claire or one of these lovely, lovely women from Bonnier would escort me around to the BBC. And I would go there and go into a booth and find myself talking to live radio in Scotland or Wales or Ireland or the Canary Islands, all over the UK. Amazing experiences, and I loved every moment of it. I remember, I think it was this time last year, I was going there so often that one of the security guards, he got to know me, and I thought, this is a bit ridiculous. He's a security guard at the BBC saying, oh, hello, it's you again. Yeah, no, I know you're good, and not wanting to inspect my bag. And I'd still open it, and he'd have a little look. So that's pretty special, isn't it? Oh, I might tell you about another time. Well, because it just reminded me of going to the BBC. It was the morning that I was going there to be on Graham Norton's live radio show. Saturday mornings, Graham Norton does this live, goes, I think, for about 3 hours. And I was so damn chuffed to be going there. But as I arrived there, and there were often there's people hanging outside the BBC. I thought they were mostly people who were staff members that come out to have a cigarette, which a lot of them were. But there were about half a dozen or so people standing outside the BBC as I was walking up, chat away to Francesca. And then all of a sudden, one of these people said, oh, here she is, look, it's her. And I kind of looked around trying to work out, well, who's this person talking about? And, somebody else was here. Then these people sort of all kind of formed a circle around me, and they had my book, and they're saying, my gosh, I can't believe it's you, and can you sign my book, and can I have a selfie? I've never been greeted like that before, and I'm stunned by it. And Francesca just took a step back, and I looked at her, and she had this big silly grin on her face. But I would then sign these books for these people and took the selfies. And I said, how did you know? Why are you here? It just didn't make sense to me. But it turned out that the wonderful, amazing Graham Norton, who I then spent half an hour with, he had been broadcasting all morning on his show that I was going to be his last guest and that I was coming on. And so these people had come from wherever they lived in London to hang outside the BBC. Wow, never had a reception like that before. Probably won't get it again, but I got it. And as overwhelming as it was, in retrospect, I think back and go, that was pretty amazing. So thank you, Graham. I've never really spoken about chatting with Graham, have I? Can I say that the person that you see on your television sets and who you think looks like this incredibly friendly, funny guy, he is all that and more. For half an hour we chatted, he and I. It was so comfortable, and look, it was like I was talking to an old friend who I'd known for a long time. And the fact that he gave me half an hour to just chat, and we just chatted, was truly amazing. So having deviated away from what I wanted to talk to you, but hey, listen, that's a story of hope for mine, isn't it? I could hope that one day I could get to meet Graham Norton, and I did. And I got to spend time with him. Even got the photo to prove it. So I'm going to not bore you anymore with these little snippets of my life travelling around talking, given that now it's going to be just done via Zoom, Skype and Team. But I'm going to thank you once again for your time this evening. I'm going to thank Robin, Marjorie and Jennifer and everybody else who is sending me emails and messages. And when I come back in 2 weeks' time, it's woohoo! The book's out. Or about to be out. Folks in Australia, just sit tight for another couple of weeks and you'll be able to get it too. One of the things I've been told is coming my way this week is a pallet load of books. When I said, well, what does a pallet load look like? I was told, well, it's 800 copies, okay? Just sign them and send them back to us. So I think that's what I'll be doing later on this week, is signing 800 books that can be then sent back to the publisher's warehouse here, or the distributor's warehouse here, so that we can get them out to you. Thank you. It's been wonderful. I can see this a message that's sitting there from one of my dear friends in Timor, in Dili. Mwah. I just, maybe one day I'll talk to you about the people in East Timor and my visit there. They are truly one of the most delightful, beautiful nation of people, and I feel very, very strongly and connected to them. But look, don't get me started. I'll go off. Maybe I'll give a chance to talk to you about that another day. In the meantime, I'm going to say good evening. I'm going to go and have the dessert that I haven't had yet for my dinner. I'm going to go and check on the dog, who I think is a little bit poorly today. He's been lying around a little bit more than normal. And he's about 3 feet from me, and he hasn't even waggled his tail or raised an ear the whole time I've been talking. More often than not, he thinks I'm talking to him and does respond. So allow me now to go and check on Diego, have myself some ice cream, wish you a good evening or good morning, and I shall see you again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you and good night. And dink.